When COVID-19 started spreading, the first sector which took a hit was the travel and tourism sector. Flights were grounded, trains were halted, all movement was banned. This is one of those sectors which has had absolutely zero revenue in the last 1 month. Salaries have been cut, people have been fired, and CEOs and the owners all have resorted to even zero pays. We have with us Alok Bajpayee, who is the CEO and co-founder of Ixigo. Ixigo is an AI-based mobile travel app that has a user base of more than 100 million travelers in India. It was founded in 2007 with Alok Bajpayee and Rajneesh at the helm of affairs. I'm sure many of you remember that Sanjay Mishra wala video जिसमें ट्रेन में कुछ तो घर जैसी बात है वाला जिक्र था. So, and even if you go to the Ixigo's office, the meeting rooms are customized in train and flight compartments. Such is the passion, but where does passion go in these tough times? वाजपेयी जी, पहली बात बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमसे बात करने के लिए. संकट की इस घड़ी में आपका स्वागत है. And
Thank
of
you.
course,
Thank you for having me.
we have Dr. Anurag Batra, who's the chairman and publisher of Business World magazine. Talking about spirit, since Batra ji has mentioned spirit, Alok, what is your state of mind as an entrepreneur? How are you dealing with this crisis personally? And what is your motivational level as of now? What's your mental health?
Wow. So, look, nobody can be prepared for something like this, right? I think nobody in the wildest of their dreams would have thought of, business coming to a complete standstill. In fact, I was joking to someone that it's almost for us as it was almost like a Ferrari that was going at top speed and then suddenly crashed, and came down to a zero velocity, right? Because last couple of quarters, Ixigo was seeing some pretty rapid growth. We've actually had our first quarter with profitability at the company level in JFM. And the whole travel industry was sort of seeing green shoots because after the collapse of Jet Airways, we already had one shock last year, and then the capacity was coming back slowly. And by January, February, the capacity had fully come back. So just when we were getting up back on their, feet, this Corona crisis hit us mid-March. In fact, the first 1 or 2 weeks of March were probably, record days in terms of airline bookings in India because people had started planning for the summer holidays. And from the trend, it started to look like it would be a record year compared to last year, right? But then, around mid-March, when the first few cases started to emerge in various cities, I think that's when we saw demand start to drop. And then, of course, post the lockdown, we are at zero booking. So, motivation-wise, look, I think it came as a shock in the early months. Although having some Chinese investors on board make sure that you are getting more news from China, and so we knew that at some point this has to come. I don't think anybody imagined that it would come so quickly in India and become such a large problem overnight, right? We were all mentally prepared that maybe in a month or two, maybe in April or May, this kind of problem will also come to India. But then the spread started more rapidly, and the spread started from international travelers coming back, not from China but from other countries, right? And that was a big shocker. So I think first 1 or 2 weeks were very tense. We didn't really know how to react, and the challenge most entrepreneurs face in these situations is that you need to react, you need to course correct in order to survive, but you don't know how deep a reaction is deep enough, right? Like if you have to cut salaries, how much do you really need to cut, and how do you get everybody on board? Should you let people go or not? These are decisions that Rajneesh and I probably spent many sleepless nights around third week of March, or figuring it out. And finally, we took a very measured approach where we said, look, it's hard to predict how long this will last. It's so just assume the worst case. Just assume that for next 6 months you don't have any revenue, and plan accordingly, right? So that's the kind of plan we came up with, where we said, fine, even if for 6 months, business comes to a standstill, will we be able to survive? And once we had executed those plans, once our team graciously agreed to, those kind of salary adjustments for the short to mid-term, I think it did take away some of that stress, because we saw people coming together in a beautiful way. And the hope and the I would say optimism in the team actually is still there, that no matter what happens, this is something people will come out of. And therefore I think, and that's the only way you can actually keep yourself motivated, that I mean, the more you think about the pessimistic scenarios, Obviously, you will not have a night's sleep. But I think the way to think about it is, can we start spending more time and energy on preparing for the future world, post-COVID world, as they call it, and what will travel need in the post-COVID world, and can we start preparing some of those tools right now? Right. So I think that's where we've been spending the last 4 or 5 weeks on understanding, what will become more important for customers. And therefore, I'll give you a small example. One thing we realized was that in the post-COVID world, people will want to not worry about whether they will get a full refund or not from the airlines, because that became such a big mess, a big nightmare for people, whether they will get a credit shell, whether they'll get a full refund, when will they get it, in what shape and form will they get it, because a lot of people had made bookings for summer, which they had to cancel, right? So we launched a new product, like we literally did a hackathon for a week, and we launched a new product called Ixigo Assured, working closely with an insurance partner and saying that, at a very affordable price point, can people get a full free cancellation protection, right? So that no matter why or what reason they choose to cancel, they will get a full refund from Ixigo, right? So we've done some of these kind of innovations in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and we're doing a few more. But that's the only way to keep your mind off the actual impact. So the actual impact is business is down to literally almost zero, right? We are seeing almost no bookings every day, right? So because government has shut down future bookings, and that's the bigger problem. Like for trains, you can't book in the any future date. For flight, you can't book from now till 31st May. So I think till the time there is no directive on when things will open up, we will not really see bookings start to come in for future dates also. Yeah.
So,
Alok, I want to ask you two questions. One is, do you see the pricing of airfares go up because the supply has become large and demand has shrunk? I mean, supply. So if, let's say, there is social distancing in the planes,
Yeah.
but when there were 6 seats, maybe there are 2 seats or 3 seats.
Or 4 seats, yeah.
We don't know. Minimum is 2 and maximum is 4, right? Won't be 6.
Correct.
And the demand overall has come down. So the capacity has shrunk, demand has shrunk. So will the prices go up?
So there are three dynamics at play here, Anurag. One is, oil prices have come down quite a bit compared to, 3 months back. So if you look at the cost items for an airline, oil is a very large part of their variable cost, right? The second thing is, in terms of capacity, I don't think full capacity is coming back. It will come back in phases, right? So even though demand may not be more than, let's say 50% or 30%, whenever things open, but the reality is that the supply will also not be more than a certain measure, because I don't know what the real, impact of having this kind of social distancing on planes is in terms of prevention, but at least from a confidence building measure for passengers to think that, maybe it's more safer to fly because you have at least a 1 seat gap with everybody. Maybe it's a great idea, at least for the short term, to get people to at least start coming back on planes, thinking that, the risk is not as high as what they perceived it to be. And only time will tell whether, that is a measure that airlines can still profitably operate on. But my sense is that fares will not go as high as what we thought they would, because even if demand stays, below 50%, the oil prices have fallen, almost to, 35% of where they were before, maybe 40% of where they were before, right?
See, one more variable is the number of flights allowed. If only, let's say, in Delhi we are hearing that only 3 seats will be open, T1 and T2 will be closed, for example. So if also number of flights is less.
So there are several possibilities, like now that we are talking about zones, red zones, green zones, and orange zones, right? So that begs the question on whether red zone airports will be allowed to function, right, when things start opening up. So there are many such variables, you're right, whether all the access will be open, all the OD pairs will be functional. I believe they will not. And on day one, I think there will be some capacity which will not come around. Also, there may be certain sectors where the airlines believe that the demand is not enough to run profitably, and therefore they'll
Sure.
also not deploy the fleet. The other possibility is that under financial pressures, the airlines might reduce their fleet sizes. They might give back some planes, right, just to reduce their, the impact on their balance sheets if this lasts for a long time. That's what's happening across the world. So BA, United, everybody is reducing their fleet size. So even if they come back at full capacity, that new full capacity is not, maybe more than 60% of their old capacity, right? So I think all those things will play out to some extent. Although in India, I'm still an optimist that if you look at all the recessions in the past, right, India is the only market which kind of did a V-shaped recovery, almost every time. And in that kind of
Second, Alok. Sorry.
Thanks, Advani.
out later
Can I call
when
you
it's
back
not
in
live.
2 minutes? 5 odd minutes? 5 minutes. Ashok Advani of Business India.
हाँ फिर से बोल देता हूँ. So I think India, in the last few crises, that whether it was the financial crisis or 2008, 2001, or even before that, India is the only market where domestic demand always has been very resilient, and it kind of bounces back sooner. And I'll give you one small example that till one day before the lockdown, we did not see a major impact on the train and bus side of our bookings. So there's a lot of demand which is utility led, which means I am working in one city and I need to be in another, etc. Like the migrant labor that we hear about, which is stuck in different cities. So in the short term, I think whenever this opens up, there will be a lot of pent up demand of that nature where people are stuck. And I know several people who, like old aged people who are stuck with one of their, kids, and needs to be at the other one's place as soon as things open up, right? And the thing is that we already get a lot of queries from such people to estimate this kind of demand. So my sense is that demand, you will see a spike in the first few weeks whenever things open up, and then 3-4 weeks later, you will know what the true level of demand really is, right? So that will be the organic demand at that point. So I'm hoping that even if that is at 40-50%, even if it's at 30% for that matter, it's still a great number to be at for a market like ours, given the utility nature of domestic travel. Um, a few more examples, like people need to be in several other cities for medical reasons, right? So there might be a hospital you go to for dialysis, which is, you come to Delhi every few months to get that done, right? Now, that kind of demand will always exist. There is demand for, functions which could be, attending someone's funeral or attending someone's birth, or, things like that, which again, you cannot not do those things, once things open up. So even though the fear factor will play for a quarter or two, the utilitarian, emergency, essential kind of demand will definitely come back, at
Sure.
least on flights and trains. And trains, I feel, will be a lot more resilient. So whenever it opens up, although I feel it will open up last because it's very hard to implement social distancing in the non-reserved category there. But I feel that customer is a lot more resilient. He has a lot more battles to fight in his life than just Corona, and that person will get on a train and travel if that is what is required to get to his workplace.
One question and then I'll leave it on. So how do you motivate yourself? What do you say to yourself? Because lots of entrepreneurs are confused, lost. They don't know what to do. They're living on faith and hope, but faith is not a plan. Hope is not a plan. So is there something that tangible that you can say to entrepreneurs out there? There are many people like you who had, your business still very large, but mid-sized, small-sized businesses were growing. Suddenly there's a halt.
Yeah, so Anurag, this is our second crisis. We saw 2008 and we almost died in 2008. We had a term sheet that collapsed and we had 2 months of runway left and all that, right? And the only thing that held us back then and what is holding us back now is that, you should never give up hope as an entrepreneur, especially when you know that all the other variables under your control are going right. So if you think you are sitting on a great product, great service, great brand, great team and great opportunity, right? I think this is a phase that, it might last a couple of quarters, it might last more, but then things will come back. It's not like there's been no recession where people didn't see things coming back within a year or two, right? So I think now the challenge really is, can you survive that, right? And my advice to entrepreneurs is that the only thing you should focus on right now is the survivability of your business and your product or service. If it means taking very very hard decisions and stepping up in the leadership game and doing those decisions earlier than everybody else and not waiting for somebody else to come and tell you to do those things, I think that's what you need to be worrying and thinking about. So hopefully most entrepreneurs have done those things already, but the ones who have not, I would advise them not to waste any time and just assume that next 6 months you're not going to get much business, and just act accordingly, right? Because anything which budgets less than that will be foolish, right?
Alok, you mentioned that there will be some dip in the revenues of the, like, will there be a dip in your revenues per se, the travel aggregators and pertaining to your business? Because airlines, the demand will be less, supply will be high, and people will also be less, they won't be wanting to travel much in the coming time. So, will there be any effect on your business per se as far as revenue is concerned?
Look, I think in most businesses that are affected, revenues will take a dip this year, right? Now, the extent of that dip will depend on, how soon things recover. So, if this will last only for this quarter, then there is a possibility that you could have a single digit percentage dip or a low double digit percentage dip, right? Now, if this thing lasts for 2 to 3 quarters, right, then in travel, it could even be a 30-40% drop, right? Who knows? So I think we are all prepared for the fact that everybody is mentally writing off at least a quarter of revenues and saying that if that means a 25-30% drop, so be it, right? I mean, I don't think any investor or any board or any entrepreneur right now is worrying about that part. That's a
Hmm.
given that forget about AMJ and focus on what you will do in July, August, September, right? So more than revenue, I think you have to worry about when things do come back, and if they come back at lower scale, then are you still able to have the cash flows or the profitability or unit economics to survive that, right? Because I think this will be a true test of companies where unit economics are able to sustain even at a, let's say, lower fixed cost level, even if they've cut salaries.
Hmm.
With the lower demand, are you able to sustain and then grow from there as the demand grows, right? Because if you have bad unit economics fundamentally and you're not able to fix them over the next few months, then even when things improve, you're still burning a lot of cash. And
Right.
that because in today's environment, raising money is super hard,
Right.
especially for large, B, C round or D round kind of players. So, so my sense is that anyone who hangs in there essentially, right, and is able to fix the unit economics and find some alternate sources of revenue also, which can support the business during this time. So I mentioned insurance as one way, like the free cancellation that we are doing, but we are also doing a lot of content engagement led stuff in our train app, where we had a large number of users. Today they still come back to our app to read news, to look at content, to consume videos that we create, and to also play games, right? So that's something that we always had, because we had something called train mode, where we would make people play that on the way, or after they've completed their trip, etc. And now it's become the centerfold of our app, right? So because there's no travel happening, so might as well engage that audience instead of losing that audience, right? So we're also actively creating a lot of video marketing, content marketing stuff to engage not just our own audiences, but also to bring in new audiences that may have never heard about us. But when things come back, they might have stronger recall for our brand because we stood for something meaningful during the crisis, right? So
Sure.
we're doing that sort of stuff as well. Yeah.
But going ahead, Ixigo has always been a brand which has had more engagement modules rather than just the core business of the brand. Like you mentioned, content marketing and engagement marketing. Do you
Yeah.
see a spur in these activities in the times ahead? Because there will be some constraint on the revenues. So will you be still investing in offline marketing, offbeat marketing, or investing in content engagement, or maybe
Yeah.
user engagement apart from the core business which you operate in?
So we weren't really investing a lot in offline marketing or brand building per se. Most of the content marketing you see is done by our in-house team on very low budgets, and
Led by Ashish.
led by Ashish Chopra, and it's a very small team. But in fact, most of the actors you see in our videos are employees from other teams. They're all Exigems. So
Why haven't I
we,
ever seen you acting in the videos?
I've been there in a couple of them. So we did this April Fool prank where we launched something called Ixigo Glass.
Acha.
So Rajneesh and me were there in that one. That was fun. But I think, look, my sense is people are realizing that during this crisis, content consumption has gone almost 2 to 3x, right? And since apart from TV and online content, I don't think people are spending their time elsewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is half the people are not getting newspapers or magazines, and some people are obviously spending more time in social and content than they used to because they have more time at hand at home. So I think the importance of that sort of content marketing that you do organically, or building more content relevant to your brand, is suddenly come into the that has suddenly come into the limelight, because agencies typically who were working on large ticket projects across TV and IPL and this and that. I mean, look, those guys are out of work right now, right? Because nobody has the budgets to spend on those things, and those things are not happening at all. So,
Mm-hmm.
having said that, so every brand is actually coming back to the core, which is to say we can sit and create share-worthy content, right? So I think that has become the mainstay, and I see a seismic shift in how even the media houses are going to think about this sort of content marketing, and they might want to play a larger role in doing that themselves rather than sitting it out and waiting for big budget campaigns, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
I
Time for
and
me to
I'm
come
seeing
to your
that.
office and get some marketing lessons as usual.
Yeah, you're more than welcome when it opens.
But talking from the media perspective, Alok, from your sector, I mean, I'm not talking of Ixigo in particular, but will you see how will you see the advertisements panning out? Will there be more advertisement or marketing budget? Will there be an increase in marketing budget and more media spends in the coming times from your sector specifically?
I think right now it's zero. Like everybody is shut down everything, right? Because there's no business. So, and I think when things do start, you will see classical way. Like first, you will see performance coming online again, and then maybe when the confidence level exceeds a certain volume of bookings, right? Will you start seeing people starting to invest again in brand? So my sense is it will be a cautious return. It will not be, at least on the marketing side, even if demand has a V-shaped or U-shaped recovery, marketing might not have a V-shaped recovery because people will start investing cautiously at first. I don't think the discounting levels prevalent before the crisis are going to come back.
Right.
I think people want to collaborate more than compete at this point.
Hmm.
And given the market is not going to be growing for a couple of quarters, people would rather say I'm happy with the market share I have as long as I can run this profitably, rather than trying to grab more market share and burn more dollars, which was a
Right.
kind of approach one saw before. So that will bring more rationalization in marketing budgets,
Hence,
and which means overall marketing budgets may actually fall as a percentage of revenue this year. Even if the revenues fall, the marketing percentage of revenue will also see a dip in most companies, because people will also realize, one thing that happens when you do a marketing blackout and then you start from zero, it's almost like zero based budgeting. You realize that you were investing money on some of the things that didn't have a return any which ways. Even when things do come back, I expect that marketing will not come back online in a step function. It will be a slow, cautious approach, because people will realize that there were many marketing channels they were investing in that may not have been working. And you only realize that when you turn everything off and you start from zero, right? It's like
right.
zero based budgeting. When you say, okay, assume that there's zero cost and then start layering all your costs, and which is what people are doing right now in every organization, zero based budgeting, saying, okay, what are the things we don't need? And so everything is going to become a lot more efficient. organizations, people, marketing, even how much we invest in product and technology. Like people are going to question a lot of spends
Traditional.
that, yeah. And I think it's good, right? Because overall what happens is the whole ecosystem becomes more efficient, right from the supplier till the customer. And it's good for every industry when that happens, right? It's good for the customer, it's good for the supplier. And obviously the onus is on the intermediaries like us to become extremely technology enabled and more efficient than before, so that despite having pressure from both the supply and demand side, we can essentially make those transactions happen even at a lower cost structure than before, right? And I think most people right now are going back to re-engineer their businesses and say that, okay, if I could remove something from marketing, even when things come back, what would it be, right? If I could not do a couple more things on the engineering side, what are the most important things for me right now? And I think those questions are good, because when everything is growth oriented, you don't ask yourself those hard questions, right?
It's a good problem to
Like,
have.
exactly. Most companies are saying, okay, do I really need so many people, right? Or even if I do have so many people, then are they actually working on things that make sense, right? Those questions one starts asking when you're in a crisis, right? So it's great. It's great to be going through that.